You know, every single day we get hit with a tidal wave of numbers, right? Headlines, ads, studies, they all tell us what to think, what to buy, and how to live. But what do those numbers really mean? Well, today we're going to become data detectives. We're going to get the tools to see past the flashy headlines and find out what's really going on. Okay, let's jump right in with our first case. Picture this. You're scrolling online and bam, this headline pops up. A new study proves pet owners are 50% happier. I mean, who doesn't love that? It sounds so good. Makes you want to immediately go adopt the nearest fluffy creature, right? But hold on. As a freshly minted data detective, our first move is an excitement. It's a healthy dose of suspicion. So that leads us to the big question, doesn't it? How do we actually know if this is true? How can we take a big, shiny number like 50% and, well, check to see if it's legit? Let's dive in and find out.
All right, to crack this happy pet headline, we need to learn the basics. We've got to understand the tools of the trade, starting with the language of the evidence itself.
And when it comes to stats, that means getting a handle on a few key ideas. Think of this as our starter toolkit for asking all the right questions. First up is a word you've probably heard a million times: population. Now, in statistics, this isn't just about how many people live in a city. It's the entire group, I mean the whole shebang, that we want to know something about. So for our happy pet headline, the population would be, you guessed it, every single pet owner in the entire world. Okay, so obviously we can't talk to every pet owner on Earth. That would be, well, impossible, right? Imagine the time, the cost. So what do researchers do? They use a sample. It's exactly what it sounds like. A smaller, specific group they can actually collect data from to make a really smart guess about that huge population. Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine the population is this massive pot of soup. You don't have to slurp down the entire thing to know if it needs more salt, do you? Nope. You just take one little spoonful to taste. And that spoonful, that's your sample. But, and this is a huge but, not all spoonfuls are created equal. This is so important. If you only skim the watery broth off the top, you're going to miss all the good stuff at the bottom, right? It's the same with data. The quality of your sample, it's literally everything. So let's go back to our pet study. What if the researchers just went to a fancy, high-end dog park to find people to talk to? Super easy for them, right? That's why it's called convenience sampling. But here's the problem. Is that group really a good stand-in for all pet owners? No way. These folks might have more money or more free time, and those things could totally affect their happiness, completely messing up the results. So what's the right way to do it? Well, the gold standard, what everyone strives for, is random sampling. It's simple, really. It just means that every single person in that huge population, so every pet owner in the world, has a perfectly equal chance of being chosen for the study. That's how you make sure your spoonful of soup actually tastes like the whole pot. Okay, so let's say we've got our perfect random sample. We're on the right track. But to figure out if pets actually cause happiness, just asking people questions isn't quite enough. We need to level up our detective game. We need a really well-designed experiment. So what does a good experiment look like? Well, it goes something like this. First, you'd start with two groups of people that are as similar as possible. Then, you give one group the treatment, in this case, a brand new pet. The other group, called the control group, doesn't get a pet. Then, after a while, you measure the happiness levels in both groups to see if the pet really made a difference. And this leads us to one of the most important ideas in all of statistics. I mean, if you remember one thing, make it this. Just because two things seem to happen together, like owning a pet and feeling happy, that does not mean one caused the other. Seriously, this is probably the biggest trap people fall into. We're talking correlation versus causation. So why is that? A lot of the time, there's something called a lurking variable, hiding in the background, messing things up. A classic example. Studies show that when ice cream sales go up, so do crime rates. So does eating a vanilla cone make you a criminal? Of course not. The lurking variable is the hot weather. It makes people buy more ice cream, and it also tends to coincide with more crime. See? So back to our pets. What could be lurking there? Well, what about exercise? People who own dogs have to walk them, right? So maybe it's the extra exercise that's making them happy, not the pet itself. All right, detective, we've gathered the clues, we've learned the language, we know the traps to avoid. It's time to go back to that original headline and deliver our final verdict. So the final verdict is? That headline, it's totally misleading. That big, flashy 50% number is, well, it's pretty much meaningless on its own. We have no idea how they got their sample, if it was an experiment, or how they even measured happiness. The number makes it sound like a fact, like causation, but without the backstory, it's just a number hanging in the air. So from now on, you've got your own data detective kit. It's just a handful of simple questions. The next time you see some big statistic, just run down this list in your head. Who were they actually studying? How did they pick them? Was it random? Was this just a survey, or was it a real experiment? Did they have a control group? And what sneaky lurking variables might be hiding in the background? And there you have it. You're not just someone who reads headlines anymore. You're an investigator. You can question the numbers. The world is just packed with data, waiting for a good detective to come along. So now that you have the tools, what are you going to investigate next?